Okay, so I'm going to talk about woke culture in Star Trek one time, and I'm never going to do it again. And the reason I'm doing it, and I've actually deleted this video a couple times because the way I was expressing myself is inappropriate, and the things I was saying were just plain out rude. So I decided to change the video up, clean it up, and that's why I have the original video. I'll release it later, but for now, I just feel like I shouldn't because it was just rude. And I was just saying things that were true, but I was presenting it in a way that is not very nice. But with that being said, let's talk about J.J. Abrams. So the only thing about the J.J. Abrams films that get to me is I don't think the writing's particularly that great. The visual effects don't really bother me. I think they're good. I just think it's a very I don't know, thrown together plot that doesn't really follow, and there's a lot of mistakes like naming ships wrong and things like that. I don't care for that. That irritates me. And then the part that really gets to me is I don't like the way the Enterprise looks. It looks terrible to me. It's the only Federation starship ever that I hate. And it's just the Enterprise. I think the other ships in the films are fine. None of them have ever bothered me. I just don't like the Enterprise in the JJ verse. That's it. Okay, so Michael Burnham is the number one reason I don't like this Star Trek Discovery series. There's a lot of problems with the series. It's number one, it doesn't follow Trek very well. It's very off doing its own thing. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't follow Trek rules. They name ships wrong. They have devices like cloaking devices with the Klingons that they didn't have during that time period. And there's just a list of mistakes that are just plain out poor writing. And then the Michael Burnham character is the worst Star Trek character I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing against the actress. She's only doing her job. It is 100% the writing's fault that this stuff is so terrible. It's just garbage. I mean, the fact that this human is raised by Vulcans and is smarter than Vulcans and that logic is a failure is just silliness. And in my opinion, the reason they treat Vulcans so terrible in the new Star Trek is because woke culture hates the idea of using facts. It hates the idea that you're using data to represent a truth. They want you to judge things by how they feel, and if you don't judge things by the way they feel, then you're evil, and there's no debate, and that's the wokeness that I don't like. Now, when it comes to how everyone's gay, I don't really care for it. I think they're just throwing it in people's face too much, and I think it's disrespectful to the gay culture to make every character constantly gay because most people aren't gay. A very small portion of our community is gay. And it's like it just happens that everyone on the ship happens to be gay or bisexual. Like, this is a very unrealistic way of depicting our cultures. And for that, I just think it's insulting and I don't like it. And I think that their idea is trying to integrate gay culture into Star Trek. I don't really care if a character is gay. It's not really that big of a deal to me. But I don't think the entire premise of the show has to be around gay. And I just think it's a waste of resources and time. If they maybe had a character who was, that's fine, and then they talk about their struggles or whatever, that's great. It makes it a little more watchable. But when everybody and everything it's just ridiculous. It's like you took the context of Star Trek, removed it, and you threw woke culture in there, and I'm supposed to be proud of what you did just because you threw gay in there. I think it's extremely insulting to Star Trek. I know, and I'm not going to say names, but I have particular friends of mine who are gay and who are also Star Trek fans, and they can't stand this show for that reason because they feel they've insulted and disrespected their community by ruining Star Trek in order to make an agenda, a political agenda that's not necessary. And they find it insulting, and I reason with them, and I feel the same way. But with that, the part that bothers me the most, or the part that sickens me about the way that they attack the Vulcans and all the new Star Trek, is because they hate logic, they hate reasoning. Because when you hear things like Ben Shapiro telling you people facts don't care about your feelings, they're attacking Ben Shapiro and other people who are using facts and their arguments against woke culture and saying that they're abusing things like, for an example, our scientific community. How anyone could go and tell you that boys and girls don't exist is idiocy. I mean, let's be honest with this. You cannot get pregnant if you're a man. No matter how much I want to get pregnant, I can't get pregnant. If I change my hair, or I wear certain clothes, or if I change body parts or remove body parts, that will not make me get pregnant. There is no getting past this. And the fact that scientists now are saying these things as if they're true is ridiculous. Now, I'm not talking about, a spectrum or people brain chemistry. There is biological truths that people who are gay or lesbian or bi or anything of that nature, that there are impacts that could be chemical or cultural that are affecting those things. And that's all true. And that's the kind of stuff that's like irritates me about these agendas. If you have a belief system, or for an example, like you're running to push an idea, because a lot of people are going to talk about how old Star Trek, how example you had Captain Kirk and Uhura have a kiss, and this was an interracial kiss. And they try to make that equal to what we see with woke culture. Woke culture is coming from Frankfurt School. Woke culture is Marxism. Marxism is a communist viewpoint trying to be forced into our ideology by a man named George Soros. George Soros is the reason why you see all the politicians pushing all these laws to limit crime and to allow sex abuse charges to be lowered and things of that nature. It is 100% Soros. George Soros is a Marxist, and he's the one who's influencing most of this media. He's one of the richest people on the planet. And the thing is, people try to act like this isn't true. Well, we know for a fact that he was paying politicians. We know for a fact that he was working with organizations that were stealing money and taking fraudulent money and then pumping money into elections. So my state, Arizona, is one of them. All right. So now you know my feelings about why they're attacking the Vulcan culture. Now you know why I don't care for Star Trek Discovery. So now let's talk about Star Trek Picard and what I think was wrong about that series. Now when I was talking about Star Trek Picard, I will be referring to Star Trek Picard Season 1. The idea of Starfleet, where you are judged on the merits of you and yourself and not your identity politics, sorry, I can't talk, is counter to the woke culture. In the woke culture, the more you bow down to whatever the cringe is, if you're a transgender white female, you go here. If you're transgender black female, then you get to go in this category. And you're based on whatever victim mentality that you're pushing is the authority that you're given. That garbage does not exist in Starfleet, in the Next Generation, things of that nature. That's why they want to destroy the idea of Starfleet, because Starfleet is judging the person, and their advancements is based on their actions and their responsibility. Not to mention, if you look at Picard, Picard is not the Picard that we know from Star Trek TNG. He's a sad representation of what he was. And he basically can't do anything. He's a failure. The Romulan Empire falls apart. It's all his fault. And the list just goes on the ridiculousness about Picard Season 1. And then you have this hatred of the android thing, whatever. And it's just, there was nothing great about it. And it was just more like, it was at times tolerable, but it was never good. And the way they wanted to ruin Captain Picard and then ruin the Federation is because woke people and woke culture hates the idea of heroes standing up to, government entities or groups or powerful people who are lying and calling them out. And Picard always did that and always has, and so did Starfleet. And that's why they hate Captain Picard in TNG. And so this is their way of destroying the legacy of TNG in the Federation. And for those of you who aren't getting or you don't understand, the World Economic Forum, these are the people that have admitted that they're the ones that pay for this to happen. They're the ones that force this. This is the ones that force Disney and the other companies to do this stuff. So that's why I'm having the Cardassians there, because the Cardassians are kind of like dickholes. And yeah, I just thought it would be funny. Okay, now we're going to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Now I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. It's okay. Like, I would watch it, and if people ask me, hey, if I want to watch Star Trek, would you recommend it? I'd say yes. Now, it does have woke characters, like the one on the far right. She's a lesbian, and then the nurse in the white, she is bisexual. Now, that doesn't bother me. I don't care. They don't make the entire series about their gayness, and that's the way it should be. They're treated like just members of the crew, like everyone else. And I think that's a good way to present, someone who has that, sexuality or attraction, like it's just who they are and they're just a crew member, and it doesn't become their entire aspect of everything that they are. It's just they are, and that's it. And that's the way I think it should be presented. It doesn't make it like shoving it in your face and that you're a bad person because you're not gay. I don't like that kind of attitude that you get from some of the other Star Trek series. That stupid one, Star Trek Discovery. I don't know why. I hate that series so much. I just can't stand it. I even forget its name sometimes. I'd actually physically go look at it because I just can't stand it. But anyways, so that's the way you should be presenting those characters. If you want to share or I don't know, have members of that community in the crew, that's the way to do it. The only thing that pisses me off about the show that I can't stand, and the reason I don't say I like it, is because they have Vulcans completely wrong. Everything about hating Vulcans for using logic is in this show, and that your gut and your feeling is like a reoccurring theme because SJWs hate logic. And obviously Vulcans are all about logic, and they have this attitude of the way they present the Vulcans as if they're some kind of like misfits. And I don't like that. It's not Star Trek. It's just SJW garbage being thrown in there. If they were to not make Vulcans a bunch of like basically retards, I would be okay with the show, and the other stuff wouldn't even bother me. Matter of fact, I'd probably like it. But because the way they treat Vulcans, the way they treat Spock, it just irritates me. It's just stupid, and it bothers me too much to make you say I just don't like the series. I'll be honest with you, I don't like the series because of that. Like, I would tell people, if you like Star Trek, you can watch it. I think the last episode that I watched was awesome, that had Kirk in it. I liked it a lot. But overall, I think the show is good. If they took that crap about the Vulcans out of there and they treated Vulcans like Vulcans, I would say I like it. I do like the way they show the Romulans as being like Romulans, and I do like that because the Romulans are definitely the Romulans of Kirk era. We haven't seen Klingons yet, so I don't know if they're going to go mess that up because I don't really care for the Klingons of, the thing at which I do not speak. But technically, that series and that thing I can't speak, those Klingons are, whatever. That's just my opinion. If you like Discovery, that's fine. You just don't have good tastes. If you like any of the other Star Trek, that's completely fine. But if you like Star Trek Discovery, I'm sorry. That show is so badly written. It is so terrible. I think Star Trek Discovery is worse than The Last Jedi. I honestly think that parading, our brothers and sisters who are, of the same sex attraction, making them like puppets and making them a sideshow is just disrespectful, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I feel like all they do with this woke identity stuff is they're trying to force a culture into things that we don't like. I don't think that woke culture has anything to do with helping gays or lesbians. I don't think woke culture has anything to do with helping children who want to transition. I think personally, woke culture is actually a front for human trafficking.
And the fact that Captain
And
Picard
the reason
is
I
basically
state and say those things, and I know that
useless
sounds
and
outrageous being on a
worthless
Star
and
Trek video, is I
has to
work
be
in an
told what to
industry
do
and
because
field
he's
where I deal
no
with
longer Captain Picard.
things of that nature.
It's really irritating.
And I can tell you right now,
Then season
the
2, because
absolute
people
connection
really got
between
pissed off
woke
when they were
culture
reading this
and
and
a
they could
certain
not
somebody
stand
who
it.
finances
So then
this
they
stuff
tried to clean it
is
up
so
with
disturbing.
season 2 a
How
little
they
bit.
have not gone
But
to
it
prison is
honestly
beyond me. But
didn't
when
do
you've got
anything for
money,
me. I
you've got
thought
power.
season 2 you could have
And
watched the
that's
first
why,
episode and
you
not
know,
bothered with
woke
the rest
Star
of it.
Trek and
The
woke Star Wars
interaction
and
that they
woke
have with
science
Q,
fiction is so popular now
I liked it.
with these companies
And
is
I
because they're being
appreciate that the
forced
notion
to
that they were
by
showing
this
that, you know, a
individual
damaged
and
childhood
his allies
could have
in order
repercussions
to
on you
propagate
later on
this
life.
stuff. There is
The
an
reason
alternative
that it's
motive
being
that is
done
dark
that
and
way is
evil,
because they
and
were
that's the
trying
part
to
that really
counteract
bothers me about
what had
this.
happened with
Yes, you're ruining Star Trek.
Discovery
Yes, you're ruining
in
Star
season
Wars.
1,
But
because
the worst part about all this is that they're doing this to try to make abuse of children a tolerable, a normal thing, and then trying to pass laws saying they're going to help gays, lesbians, transgenders. But when you know and understand the policies behind it, and you read the documentation and you see what it's saying, and you bypass what the media tells you, and you read the documents, you don't take my word for it, you read it, and you see the legislation being placed, especially in California, that is some dark, evil stuff. And I hope that the real Federation stands up and puts these guys away. Now, if you've watched my 16 minutes of ranting, I really appreciate it. If I offended you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. But I will say this. Lower Deck hates Star Trek Discovery so much that the main character of Discovery is actually the same character in Lower Decks, except for it shows you a more realistic outcome of what happens. And I think that show is absolutely hilarious. And I love the fact that she does the same things that Michael does, but only has a Star Trek outcome instead of a woke outcome. I'm just going to throw it out there. If I'm offending you guys and then you didn't like the way I presented that, that's totally fine. I just want to let you guys know I love Star Trek. I'm never going to talk about Star Trek Discovery on my channel again unless it's talking about the ships, because that's what my channel is about. I just thought I would do this because I felt like I should, and hopefully I see the culture changing where bad Star Trek and bad writing is, Star Trek Discovery is on its final season, thank God. I really hope Star Trek Strange New Worlds continues with some good writing. They've been doing a pretty good job. I hope they fix the flaws with the Vulcans. If they do that, that would be great. Sorry about that, guys. I was losing my voice. Just so you guys understand, this is the one time there will never be any political discussion on my channel ever again. This is like a special thing just because I wanted to do it. My channel's small. If this offends you, I really am sorry. I don't mean to offend you. I'm just telling you the truth. And if facts bother you, well, that sucks, but that's how it is. I'm going to continue making videos here and there. It's always going to be about ships and stats because that's what I really care about. I hope you guys like this, but give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe. If you are interested about subject matter that I'm talking about, the images are on here. Look them up yourself. And with that being said, I appreciate everything I do, and this will be the only time I ever share something like this on my channel. Matter of fact, it's probably not going to be up for very long because the things I'm saying are probably going to get me in trouble, and this video will probably get taken down. So if you like this stuff and you see these images, just download it because it will probably get kicked out because, yeah, I say some things that they don't like to hear, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm a Vulcan in heart. I believe in logic. And the things that they do disgust me. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that it's not okay, or it is. It is not okay to do the things that they do. It is not okay to try to push an agenda about child abuse as a norm. It's gross. It's wrong. It's not cool. Spock would never tolerate this. With that being said, I wish you all the best and live long and prosper.